Hello and welcome to the first ever Nude Investor video portfolio update. I'm interested to hear what you guys think about the new format, so have a watch and please get in touch and let me know how you think by either commenting below or sending me an email. Alright, first of all, my old favourite, Alexium International. Not the best week for Alexium, a bit of a consolidation period here going on after a nice breakout from this little pennant flag type setup. I'm not overly worried. It was down about over 8% on Friday, but bounced or at least held on the short-term trend line here. I entered a short-term position just above $1, which is now slightly underwater, but again, I'm not too concerned as per yet, and I have my stop losses in place in case that short-term trade goes astray. I still think it can go all the way down to about former resistance at 80 cents here before I would get worried. And I'm still just as bullish as I ever have been for long term for Alexium, and I still hold a significant long term parcel and don't see that changing in the near term. Azure Minerals is a new addition to my portfolio and is a classic example of my method I use for identifying stocks that have high potential for short-term gains. As you can see here, broke out above this level of resistance here with a nice breakaway gap, and I actually first purchased in the very bottom here at 1.5 cents. I had a nice short-term trade and got out about 2.2 cents, literally 10 minutes before they went into a trading halt to announce a capital raising. I actually didn't buy back in after the capital raising, as the capital was raised at 1.6 cents. And as many of you are aware, when you raise capital, more often than not, the share price will drift back down to that raising price. But in this case, that hasn't happened and it's carried on. Part of that fact may be because the capital, a large portion of the capital went to a man called Mark Creasy of Sirius Resources, Nova Bollinger Discovery fame, very well known player in the industry, so a lot of people are bullish about his involvement. He obviously knows how to pick a winner. If we switch quickly to the weekly chart, I'll show you what I mean by Azure Minerals showing the textbook divergence between price, which was trending down, and Twig's money flow, which was trending upwards, which suggests to me that someone started buying around mid-June. Of course, we can see very clearly what has happened since. So that's just an example of which I covered in one of my recent posts about the pump and dump method, and just figuring out where short-term gains or pumps are likely to come from using technical indicators. So you can check out that post if you want to learn more about that. I'm currently in Azure for a short-term trade. I may end up holding at least a percentage of my parcel long-term, because I think they have some quite nice long-term prospects. Over to the daily chart of BrainChip now, which probably has one of the most hyped spec stocks on the ASX over the past year or so. I was in a trading halt for a long time through here as it transitioned from AZK to BrainChip, to BRN, the new ticker. As you can see here, it's performed very well since it came out of its trading halt and was relisted as BrainChip. Although I actually sold out of my entire position on Thursday following this candle here, which to me shows a lot of weakness. It tried to crank through this area of relatively minor resistance and was heavily sold down. Whenever I see this kind of a setup with a big rise followed by a nice big widespread candle closing near its lows, that suggests to me that there's a lot of weakness in the background. So sorry, I haven't actually sold out of my entire position, but I sold basically 2/3 of my position, and I'll keep the remaining third as a long-term hold. But I'll be looking for this to retrace at least down to this sort of 25 cent level. I could be wrong and it could break back out, but at this stage, until it breaks above that, the sort of peak, strongly above that recent high, I'm thinking there's some significant weakness in the background. So I will not be buying back in a trading parcel until that happens. As far as the fundamentals go, I still think there's a long way to go, month or two at least, before we get any significant news out of BrainChip that could move price. Could be wrong, but that's just my opinion at the moment. CHP, Chapmans Limited, a new addition to the portfolio. Doesn't take much imagination to see why I bought into this as a short-term trade. Nice sort of almost curved base here, and broke out with very decent volume. A lot of buying in here. You can see this volume came out of nowhere. We've recently received a substantial holders change notice, and one of the major brokers that has been funding them actually sold out of the majority of their positions. So it looks like selling is finished or almost finished, and the company has a cash and asset backed value of around somewhere between 1 and 1.5 cents. So I think somewhere between here and here is fair value in the short term, so I'll be holding and hopefully seeing that in the next couple of weeks. Coventry Resources, a company I've held since about January. I actually sold out of my entire position this week upon breaking of this 6 cent resistance. I was hoping it might form some kind of long drawn out bull flag / pennant, but that never eventuated, unfortunately. So I was stopped out when it fell through this level. It looks to me like the pros pumped this through here and probably exited the building around here with this big down, high volume down spread candle, and then have just left retail holders to play amongst themselves through here, and they're now getting bored, and you're still seeing strong selling on any news. So I haven't seen any change in behavior, so I thought it was time to get out with a reasonably nice overall profit. My average exit was about 7.2 cents, I think, so I ended up making quite a good sum of money out of Coventry, which I was happy about. As far as the fundamentals go, I think they really need to sort out their metallurgy. That's the one issue that's really holding Coventry back, and I don't see them doing anything on it at the moment. It's the main reason why this deposit never got off the ground 50 years ago when it was first discovered, and they still haven't done anything to address that issue. So I'll reconsider an entry into Coventry once I see some solid evidence they've addressed that metallurgy issue. LWP Technologies, to be honest, not a lot to report here. Still seeing plenty of battle between the buyers and sellers in this 0.7 of a cent to 1.1 cent range. News flow, they've started up the kiln to start making the propans after getting that pilot plant set up. So I'm waiting for some news to drive this forward. I still hold all my initial shares, but just range trading at the moment. Platypus Minerals, a new addition to my portfolio. As you can see here, initially came to my attention in one of my scans where it has shown strong divergence between price, which you can barely see moving because the fluctuations have been so small, and Twig's money flow, which has been steadily rising for the better part of a year now, which looks to me like someone is buying up. You can see this with all the volume down here relative to here. So the technicals is what alerted me to Platypus. When I actually looked in closer, I realized that they had the ground, the tenement, which basically encompasses all of Inca Minerals ground. So I'll bring that up for you now. So you can see here, this is Inca Minerals, or ICG's ground in here. And a lot of people know about their prospectivity for a relatively large mineralized porphyry system in Peru. I've long been a fan of theirs, although there has been some mismanagement of the project, but I believe management are doing their best to really unleash the potential of the Shinap there. So Platypus basically has this tenement which directly surrounds ICG and the Shinap project. So I think there's potential for a lot of neurology potential once Shinap, or if Shinap eventually announce they've hit the massive porphyry system. And I think at $2 million market cap versus ICG's $10 million, Platypus Minerals has a lot going for it. They went into a trading halt on Friday, announced a capital raising because they only had $50,000, hence we only took a tiny position. But it'll be interesting to see the details of that and whether or not that will, now that they've got their cash sorted out, we might see some interest flow into Platypus, especially if ICG start to announce some pretty killer drill results. So one to watch closely on both a technical and fundamental front. Finally, Panorama Synergy, or PSY, one of the most highly talked about stocks on the ASX over the last couple of years. Highly volatile stock as well, as you can see from the weekly here. I bought in a little short-term trading parcel at about 15 cents and ended up selling at about 25 cents. 20 or 22 cents. I ended up buying another little trading parcel which is currently underwater, but I may end up turning that into a long-term hold parcel, because the more I research about Panorama, the more I like the potentially highly disruptive product in the Internet of Things space, which is, if any of you guys know about that, will know that that's supposedly the next big thing. But I think it's consolidating its recent breakout above that long-term downtrend, and we'll see how it goes. But I think in the next week or two, we might see the startings of the next move up. So that's it for my first ever video portfolio update. As I said, please let me know what you think, and I'm looking forward to hearing more from you. Hope you enjoyed it. Cheers.